so you don't have a very glitchy Blackboard tutorial. And if you want to download that, that's going to be in full HD as well. How do we present the protected keyword in UML? That's the pound symbol, or the hashtag. It actually has another name as well. Can't remember the other name though. Alright, let's wait for this last person to join and then we'll get started. Today's going to be a bit different than what we normally have. There's no real formal plan for this tutorial. It's more about preparation for your semester test, so it's about your concerns or what you are specifically struggling with. So it's kind of going to be a Q&A session where you ask questions and I answer those questions. And I can either code the examples, we can look at one of the past papers, or we can look at recursion. Just to kind of give you an idea of what to expect. Recursion calculation, please. Okay, we can do that. Okay, so let's just get the recording started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday's tutorial. Glad to see you are all here. All 12 of you, I guess. But aside from that, I am recording this session. Well, I guess obviously those watching it later would know this. I'm recording it using a different software than Blackboard at this point. I have some instability on my line, so if during this session I vanish at any point, I am continuing as nothing is, well, on my side it would probably seem as if nothing is wrong, but the recording should be fine. I'll make sure to upload that recording for you guys. Alright, so today's tutorial is going to be slightly different than what we are normally used to. Today's going to be more of a Q&A session for the semester test. So it's more going to be you ask me questions about what you're struggling with, and we can go through examples of that. So there's already been a request for the recursion question. So I'll open up a sample or a example of that, and we'll go through a few of them. Let me just share my screen for you. And then after that, we can look at one of the past papers and see how things are going. All right. So without further ado, let's start with that recursion question. All right. So I've got a few examples here for you that we can go through. And let's just maybe add some blank slides for ourselves so that we can do the answers here as well. Now I want you to keep one thing in mind. We're going to do this together, but I'm not going to give you the answers today. You're going to give me the answers and I'll tell you if it's correct or not. So I'll guide you, but the idea here is to see if you guys are ready for these questions. So let's look at the first question. So with the recursion questions, you have to calculate X, Y, and Z based on the conditions provided. And it's always in terms of X, Y, and Z, and Z will always be the integer value being provided. So you'll see there's one that keeps on changing, and that is the value you provide. So in this case, we've got private function calc, we've got X, Y, and Z as integer, and then we've got while Z is larger than 1, return X times Y times Z. Alright, so everybody happy with that example? And I see an issue here. And that is an infinite loop. Because Z does not change. Okay, let's skip this one. I just saw that now. So, just in case you're confused about what's going on here. Z, while Z is larger than 1, it will return X, Y, and Z. Oh, it's not an infinite loop. No, I'm being a fool. All right, let's actually look at this one. I think that is fair enough. So you can see that we've got while z is larger than 1, return x, y, and z. Is this a recursive call? Let's maybe start with that. No, why not? It's not an infinite loop. It's because I thought it was a recursive call. I thought it was an infinite loop, but it's not actually a recursive call. So don't worry too much about that. Remember, a recursive call has two things. One, it has a base case. So we kind of have a base case here where while z is larger than 1, you have a computational execution here. And then the second condition is it needs to call itself. It needs that recursive call. Now in this case, it says while z is larger than 1, return x times y times z. So if you provide a value here that's larger than 1, it's just going to return x times y times z if z is larger than 1. But on the other hand, if you give it a value that's less than, well, 1 or less, then it doesn't return anything. It just ends the function, which technically will give you an error because you say there's going to be an integer return. There's not going to be a return at all. But you won't see something. We won't trick you like this in the semester test. This is not a recursive call. This, however, is a recursive call. So let's maybe start here. Sorry about that. But it's maybe good to just show you the difference there. It's so that you can just see what's going on. All right, this is a recursive call. So you've got a base case and you've got that ever important recursive call where it calls itself. And there's always one thing important to see. So when you look at these recursive functions in your semester test, go and look for the base case first. See what the base case tells you. So you've got z is larger than 10, and then return 1 if z is larger than 10. And then go and look for your recursive call itself, your calc, and then the function being provided, because that is where you'll get your, let's say, your steps, the change in that value that you are tracking. Now, there's a few ways you can answer this. And the first way to do this, which probably will be one of the easier ways, is potentially look at your return. Start from your return value. Start from your return value where you can see return 1, because that's going to be the very last thing to be returned to you. So remember when we stepped through a recursive function? So let's just make some space for ourselves. So let's imagine this is our recursive call. What's going to happen is that's going to keep on calling itself. Let's just get this. That's going to keep on calling itself until it receives or until it reaches that base case. So that base case is essentially the return. That is going to be shapes. I want shapes. That's going to be, let's make it this error. It's going to be the value being returned. So from the one function going back up the stack to the original. Why does it always? So it's the value being returned to the previous call. So it's important to know what is being returned. So it always starts or ends with that final call, which is going to be in here. So this is going to be your return 1. So you know that's being returned from this function. Then after that, you'll have your x times y and the return. So now you can start tracking your return here. So the return from your next function will be x times y times, and in this case, 1, because that's your return from z. But now, if this was called again, how do we handle that? Because if you look at this, it's going to become very difficult to step through this, because this will now be the second call, which means that this would be that first call, and then the second call would be your x times y. Sorry, your x times y times the return, which is x times y times 1. Alright, so can you see that? Do you understand why that is the case? Alright, so let's just maybe get this function here. Let's just add it at the top for us over here. Alright, so that is our recursive call. So the thing is, if z is larger than 10, you return 1. So if you're going to step through it, your function call itself has that return. Now, this is just just me showing you that it calls, and then it finally returns. The easiest way to go and look at these functions is using a table. And a table will always be the easiest. I can show you that. So what you do is essentially you create yourself a table where you've got x, and you give x a value. So let's say x is going to be equal to, let's make it 5 in this case. And then this, on this side, will be your return. Sorry, let me just get the text here. On this side, it will be your return value. So what you're getting back from z being that value. That's fine. We can make it 7 or 8. Let's make it 7. Let's just make sure we do at least 2 or 3 steps. So, with x being 7, it means we're going to call the function. So that's going to be x. Sorry, let me just add my numpad here. Otherwise, this is going to become increasingly difficult. Okay, so we've got x times y, x times y times that call. So in this case, that call is going to be calc x, y, and then z plus 1, which will make it 8. So now we've got z being 8. Now we have that call again. And that call is going to be x times y so that is now that x times y times what we're getting from this return, which will be x times y plus the recursive call, which is calc x, y, and now 9. And missing a bracket. And we've got 9. So you've got your original x times y times x times y multiplied by your new one, step 9, which is x times 9, x times y times the recursive call, which will be calc x, y, and now 10. You're all okay with that for now. So we keep on stepping into that function. You see that? Alright. So every time I just add that x times y plus the function call. So with 7, your return is x times y and the function call. With 8, your return is the 1 from 7 times the 1 from 8 plus your function call. 9 is your return from 7, your return from 8, your return from 9 plus your function call. Now, 10. Now keep in mind what the return is of 10. So we've got x times y times x times y times, well, I guess we can, x times y times x times y. Let's not lose track here now. Alright, and now the return from that would be, what's the return from this call? Because remember, this is now where z is 10. So what's the return of 10? 1. So that's going to be 1. Okay, so you guys have that. Everybody okay with that? I'm seeing another bracket outside. There. Okay. So all we have to do now is we just have to go and calculate it. Is it larger than 10? What? Did I make a mistake? Yeah, you're right. You're right. I made a mistake here. So this would be, once again, that would be calc, but this is now 11. And then 11 would be the previous ones times x times y times the return, which is 1 then. Alright. So, what do we do now? Because we want to calculate this in terms of x times y, right? So what do we do? Any ideas? What will you do from here? No, not plug in some value. We want the return based on x times y. So it's kind of like your algebraic calculations where you need to find the value of x, but x is not given to you. So you need to calculate in terms of x and y. So if we look at our return, you'll see that what we have here is our calculation. So let's look at it mathematically. You've got your x times y. let's work with the first one. Let's work with that one first. So that first one will give us x times y. Everybody happy with that? Because you now have x times y times 1, which is just x times y. Can you follow the formula? Yeah, sorry, you're right. Means we just need that one. It's because of that 10 I missed right there. Alright. So x times y times y gives me 1. Gives me x times y. Everybody happy with that? Right? Okay. Now, what does x times y times x times y give me? To xy to the power of 2. Is it equivalent to your mathematical formula? That's it. X. Is that equivalent? Or can I simply go and say that will be xx times, wait, let me not make a mistake here. So I go, it's xx times xy times y. Can I do that? Why not? Can I then just go and simply say it's xy x times y multiplied by x times y? Can I say that? Okay. So that being the case, think about your returns. Let's take it from step 11. We will work our way back. What is the return from z being 11? X times y. You all agree with me there? 1 times x times y. Everybody happy with that? That is the return from just 11. Then the return from 10, so 11's return will be x times y, will be that 1. So we go down to 10. Now we've got 10, which will return my 1 plus my x times y. correct? We're going to show you two ways. I'm trying you the more difficult one now. But can you see that? Okay. Let me just add another box on top of here. So this is Z being 11. Then your next one is Z being 10. The return of Z being 10 will be 1 times X times Y. Because you will now have 10, which means you're stepping into this function, which is X times Y, times the result from Z being 11. Which will give me 1 times X times Y. Then you have your next one, which will be Z9 which will give me X times Y plus what we had here. So we've got 1 times X times Y times X times Y if Z is 9. Do you see that? Okay. And then this will continue on as we go Z8 to Z7, which will give us the return, the same return of X times Y times X times X times Y. You'll agree with me there, right? Okay. So what do we have here? 1 times whatever is going to be the result here is going to be whatever the result is, correct? So we can remove that one. All right. So take the 1 away. What do we have left? We've got X times Y times X times Y times X times Y times X times Y. So what can we do there? To the power of 4. Exactly. Then there's your answer. So your calculation, in terms of what is in front of you, is X times Y to the power of 4. But that is if you start your calculation from 7. So if you started from 6, it's going to be X times Y to the power of 5. From 4, it will be X times Y to the power of 4. So always look at what is being asked, because this question specifically will have an additional comment that will tell you Z starts at this value, or assuming that Z is not less than 0. So it will always end with the same answer in the memo. So if we tell you it is Z is 7, then you know the answer will be X times Y to the power of 4. But there's a trick here as well. And I don't want to go into that right now. Okay, so you're all happy with that. You can even leave it in that state. I'm happy to accept it in that state. If you're unsure about what to do from there on. Okay, so let's maybe just do another one. We're going to do one more. We'll do two more essentially, that are slightly easier to follow. That one is a bit trickier. Yes, but the one from 2019 is slightly different. So let's maybe look at that one then. Let's go to the one from 2019. Okay, so the one from 2019 has an indication of consider the Visual Basics code below. What does it calculate in terms of A, B, and C? Private function calc 2, you've got your A, B, and C as integers. You've got if C is less than 1, then return 1. Then else return A plus B times the result of A, B, and C minus 1. So let's look at this one. Do we have an open space somewhere here? So they've got a few options down here that ask you, how would you calculate that? So let's look at that. Let's just give enough space here. Let's just copy this. Copy image. We'll put it in here. Let's put a table at the bottom for ourselves. Alright. So we've got A, B, and C. So we'll say C over here, and we've got our return. Let's just say our return over here. Now let's track the value. Where do you want to start? What do you want C to be? What is C going to be? Okay, let's make it, we're counting down, so let's make it C is 4. So assuming that C is 4, we've got our return value, which will be A plus B times our call. And in this case, it's going to be our calc A, B, and then C minus 1, so that will give me 3. C being 3 will give me A plus B times A plus B times my return, correct? So this will be another call of calc, and then A, B, and then 2. Happy with that? It just makes some more space. So we've got C, I'm just going to fill these in quickly, C2, C1, and then C0. So for C2, we're going to have A plus B times A plus B times the return from that one now. So the return from C now, which will be A plus B with my next function call. And this will be 1. And we've got our next one, which is once again just a plus b, and the return, which is going to be a plus b times calc, and then the return of our function where that is 0. So we take our function, and what's the return of calc 0? When c is less than 1, what is our return? 1. Okay. So now we have a plus b times a plus b times a plus b times a plus b. Everybody happy with that? So let's look at what we have down here. Down here it says you've got c plus 1 times a plus b to the power of c times a plus b power of c plus 1. Okay, so what will this be? What's the result here? Let's finish this one first. Sorry, a plus b, okay, to the power of 4. Now, what is c? We said c equals 4. Okay? So, do you agree with me that that is the equivalent of saying a plus b to the power of c? Sorry, I just can't remember what the power symbol is on my keyboard. Wait. Thank you. You read my mind there. So, being that c equals 4, we can say to the power of c, right? Do you agree with me there? Okay, so let's look at our options that we were given, and we've got a plus b to the power of c. But I have to warn you, in the semester test on Thursday, we're not going to give you options. We're going to ask you to give us the result. But it's not going to be as difficult as the first one we did. This one. So this one needs an additional value to get the correct answer. This one needs additional information for you to actually have a proper semester test question out of this example. Right. So don't worry too much about that one. Yes, you can start from anywhere. Generally, look, if you said c equals 5, what's going to be the result? You're just going to have an additional a plus b, because you'll have another step in here. I don't like doing this. I don't like modifying it like this on the spot. So if c was 5, what you would have had is just get this copy in here. You would have had that. And subsequently, with each one of these, you would have had an additional one everywhere. Which means you would have ended with another one down here, which would have been a plus b to the power of 5, resulting in the fact that you still have a plus b to the power of 5. So where c equals 0, is there not supposed to be another a plus b? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. Because remember, when it is 0, what is my return? Let me just add it like this.
What would you like to be reminded about?
Go away, Bixby. The return is 1. So the return, let me just move this down. The return of c being less than 1 is that return of 1. So it's not an additional a plus b because the return of that last call is only 1. It's not a plus b times 1. All right. So if you say, let's maybe just do that one. If you say c is equal to 0, what's your answer going to be? Yes, when the condition is reached. Now you still track, but because the result is 1, I just didn't add it because anything times 1 is going to be 1. Be careful there, Beck. What is the return of c being 0? It's not 0, it's 1. And if you look at the formula that we've kind of devised, anything to the power of 0 is 1. So be very careful. Don't do it with just one step. It's not going to give you the correct answers. Always try and do it with at least 3 steps in it. Alright, so are you okay with this now? With this specific one? Okay. So let's do one last one, and then we'll continue. So let's see what... I skipped one. Oh no, we did the one from the semester test, so that's fine. So in the semester test, we did... Let's do this one. Alright. So my screen just went black. I don't know if you can still hear me. We'll probably find out in a second if you can still hear me. So in this case, what we're doing now is we're going to... Okay, perfect. It returned now. What we're going to do now is we're going to do this one. See if we can solve this one together. Alright. So once again, we'll just take the return here. Return is 4. Keep that in mind. C is less than or equal to 1. The return will be 4. That's very important to note in this one. So let's just copy this. And we add some tables for ourselves. I'm just going to put that at the top. Just to remind us of those values. And we go C equals, and where are we going to start this time? So it's minus 1. It goes all the way to 1 or less than 1. So let's do it from, let's say 3 to, yeah, it gives us, let's do 4 rather. Try and get about 4 steps in. It doesn't take that long. More than 4 steps, I would say that gets a bit long, because you have to kind of think how much time you have as well. Alright, so let's just grab this. I prefer putting it in my table. Alright, so C equals 4. What is my return? My return will be a plus b plus the new function call, which will be calc a, b, and what's the needed value of c? It's going to be 3. And you've got c equals 3. So you have what you already had on top. Well, it depends on the steps. It depends on where your base call ends. If your base call ends at a higher value, checking a higher value, then you want to go slightly up. But you can see where it ends. I would always say take something that will take you 4 steps to reach the end point. 4 or 5 steps, but no more than that, because then it just takes too long. So we have our return from C equals 4, which is A plus B, plus the return from what we have in C, which will be A plus B, plus the function call. Remember, the return of C is A plus B plus another function call. Always remember the function call. Because I've seen students forget the function call and then they have one less value, which in the end gives them the wrong result. As you saw, that this mistake I made with the very first one is I had one less value and that would have affected the result. Alright, then we've got C equals 2, which is A plus B plus A plus B plus the result or the return of C, which is A plus B plus our function call, which is A, B, 1. Alright, you all happy with that? Everybody okay with that up until there? Alright, now, once again, we take our return from the previous ones, and now the return from C equals 1. Now the return from C equals 1 is 4. Everybody okay with that? Okay. So, what's our result here? Plus 4. So what do we do now? Let's do it at the bottom. So we've got our A plus B. We'll just quickly go and add this for us. So what we need to do here, 3A plus B plus 4. Everybody happy with that? Is that the final stage? What's the last step left? What's still left? Remember, we're doing the formula, so you need C in this formula. Be very careful what you're doing there. You're saying C plus C minus 1 times A plus B. Is that correct? Alright, now, Beck, be very careful what you're doing there. You see you've got C minus 1 times A plus B plus C. So with without the bracket there, but without the bracket before your C and after your 1, you're saying C minus A plus B plus C. Be very careful for that. Make sure you still stick with your computational rules. So if C equals 4, then we have C minus 1, bracket, and remember those brackets, because without those brackets, that means something completely else. Or completely different. That is completely different to that. Alright. And there we have it. C minus 1 times A plus B plus C. Everybody happy with that? Okay. Now, just so that I don't leave you without the correct answer, let's just go back to this previous one. So up here, we have our x times y to the power of... I haven't used to the power of symbol in a while. Let me just copy it from one of the messages. To the power of 4. Okay. But keep in mind you need to end it in terms of x, y, and... well, in this case, x, y, and z. But a, b, and c. So here, you've got 4. So you need z. So you can replace that with c minus 3. Z minus 3. And you'll see every time you do another step, you'll get that increased value. So if you do from 6, you'll have 6, but at the end, you'll have 5? No, you'll have 5. So you want to make sure that your C is in there. Especially if you have a value, you want to make sure that that value is calculated in terms of something inside your formula. So you always want to make sure that your formula holds true. And I think this is the easiest example that you'll see that can help you on Thursday, if I can put it that way. Alright. So let's move away from recursion here. Let's look at the other questions in the past paper so that you can see if you are comfortable with that. Alright. So in this case, you've got our question 3, which gives you a code snippet. So you're given some form of code, sometimes more, sometimes less. It's not always the same amount of code, just keep that in mind. And then you've got a few questions regarding the code. So the first one is declare a double variable called underscore average line of code, which must be directly accessible by all classes within the IT program inheritance hierarchy. Now, we need to declare a double instance variable with the name average LOC, lines of code, and must be accessible by all classes within the IT program inheritance hierarchy. So what's our modifier going to be? What's our modifier going to be? Protected. That is correct. Then we've got protected, average line of code, as double, as instructed. So there's one more. Our next question. Define a utility function that will change the number to 0 if the number, an integer provided, is negative. So what do we do there? What will that look like? What will that look like? You've got a function, so we create a function. Does it tell us what to name this function? Does it tell us anywhere what to name this function? No. So you can name it anything appropriate. So let's call it validate. And then it needs to accept a integer. So we'll change the number to 0 if the number, an integer provided, is negative. So it needs to accept a value that is going to be an integer. And the return is going to be an integer. Right. So what do we do? What's the first thing we check? We check if the value is negative. Is it less than 0? Yeah. If it's less than 0, then we return 0. Otherwise, all we have to do is just return the value itself, because then it's not negative. Everybody happy with that? Okay. So, easy 3 box. Right, our next function, or our next question. Provide an appropriate property method for the instance variable underscore line of code, or LOC. Note that any input must be validated to ensure that the values are not negative. So let's go and look and see where is our line of code. So we've got our line of code up here. So we need to create a property method for it. So we've got our public property. It is, was it for LOC? Lines of code. Are we giving it a value? Everybody happy with that? So just the creation of our pool. All right. Now we need to do our get. So what do? We return our value, which is our instance variable. Then we do our set. I'm not going to do the code completely correct. I'm just going to do the basics. Then we do our set. What do we do for our set? So our set will obviously have our function call, because it's a value that's now being provided, correct? Okay. So what do we do here? What is the result? What comes next? Is that correct? Read your questions carefully, because remember it said an appropriate property method. So we've got the property method now, but at the end of the sentence it says, note that any input must be validated to ensure that the values are not negative. Which means we need to make sure we validate this. Now, if you remember, in question 2, 3.2, we wrote that validation function. So we had that validate function. You just give it the value, and then that function will return either a 0 or the correct value. All right. Everybody happy with that? So the function or the utility function we used in the previous question, we now need to use in 3.3. If you don't use it, if you just left it at value, you would have lost marks. Because you need to ensure that that part of the question is also answered to make sure that it remains correct. If you had an if statement in there, it's fine, because you're still doing the validation. So if you didn't use your own utility function, I would be sad, but you're still doing the validation. So it doesn't matter. As long as that validation is done, whether you use the answer you had for whether you use the utility function you just wrote, or whether you do the if statement again, that's up to you. But as long as that validation is done, it doesn't matter how it's done. Well, in terms of things we've taught you, I should probably add. Right, there was a hand. So if your utility function was incorrect, what we would do is we would mark with the error. So assuming you'll probably lose 1 mark, but you won't lose all the marks for the validation. So in validation, you'll lose the 3 marks if the utility function is incorrect. But in the next question, we would have assumed that that mark is correct and mark with it. That function is correct and mark with it. It depends on how the marks are allocated as well. I should add that. So your utility function being used would probably be 1 mark. And if you wrote it out, your entire if statement will also probably just be worth 1 mark. So the equivalent will be true. You'll lose the same amount of marks with that mistake. Because 10 to 1 says, if you made the mistake in the utility function, you can make the same mistake in the validation of 3.3 as well. So you'll lose the equivalent amount of marks. But you shouldn't stress about it. Just read your questions carefully, and you'll be fine. Then we've got define a constructor that accepts a single integer parameter that is used to ensure that the LOC array is correctly allocated in memory. So all we need to do is we just need to create a constructor that accepts an integer value that will redim the LOC array. That's all it's asking us. Yes. To redim the LOC array. And that's easy 4 marks. And then lastly, provide the code that will call the method clear code. So all you need to do is just provide the code that will call that. Now it's a shared subroutine, so all you need to do is you can just call the function itself, or you can call it from the IT program. All you need to do is just call that function. Everybody happy with that? It's only 1 mark. All you have to do is just call the function. Or the subroutine, I should probably say. Okay. Alright, then the next section is UML. So for the UML section, you'll be given a scenario. In this case, it was an aquarium-based scenario. And then you are asked to define certain things. So you're asked to define the sea creature. It must have at least 2 accurate attributes and 1 appropriate method. So that is the constructor and property methods do not count. So we're not going to expect you to create the constructors and the property methods. So just make sure of that. But if memory serves, we didn't ask you to do that in the test either. because it just waits too much time to add that. We assume you can do this by now. Then you've got defined two additional classes, which both inherit directly from C creatures. They must have two attributes and one appropriate method each. Now, once again, with the added condition that constructor property methods and overridden methods do not count towards this method you need to implement. Yes. Question? I believe the voice is.
Hello, sir.
Hello?
I'd like to ask with the whole abstract data class, with the whole abstract class thing, when you declare an abstract class method, does that directly mean you have to have an abstract class or vice versa?
Can you just repeat that sentence?
So I was asking with an abstract class method, does that mean you have to have an abstract base class? Sorry, I just mixed the wording up.
So, if you have a must inherit method, it means your class itself must be a must inherit. I mean, if you have a must override method, then that means the class itself must be a must inherit class because that function must be overwritten.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. I can show you it practically in a moment because it will give you an error if you try it otherwise. So I can maybe do that in a second after we've done this. And then the last question is just about be sure to use the correct UML notation. So the result of these three questions is one diagram. A diagram with C creatures, and then two additional classes that inherit from C creatures with a method in each of those classes. So your UML question, the overall UML question, is going to be a diagram, a single diagram that you're going to produce. So it's not going to be too rough. It's actually quite nice. I think it's quite nice. I hope it's an easy question. Um, there might be a surprise for those that actually do work or do their own practicals. Okay. So, are there any other questions that you might have? You can use whatever tools you want to draw the diagrams, as long as you just provide the diagrams to us. You can use you can use, I think, diagram.io works as well. Draw.io works as well. You can use Lucidcharts, you can use Word, you can use PowerPoint, you can use Paint. It doesn't really matter. You can use whatever you want to draw it. Yes, you can. If you're going to hand draw, please make sure that you use the cam scanner to take photos, because the size of the photos, it seems like they somehow reduce the size of the photos because there's only a limited amount of space for upload, which is sufficient for an upload. But I mean, if you're taking a 15 megapixel picture of a diagram, then you're taking about a 4 to 5 meg picture. So if you're going to do it on paper, which you can do it on paper, please make sure to use the cam scanner application. We will be sending out, or we'll be putting a notice onto Eve so you can find it specifically, but we'll also be releasing a assessment guide tomorrow that will have a step-by-step step-by-step well, not step-by-step, but we'll have the guides of what you can use and how we expect the answers. What is queue and stack, sir? Okay, so that was done in one of the tutorials. So a queue is basically a first in, first out data structure, and a stack is first in, last out data structure. I'm not sure if you want me to expand more on that. It's not going to be in the question paper if that is why you're asking it. I can't remember what's in the question paper. Yeah. Okay. So, are you all happy? Are there any other questions that you have? Anything you want me to open or go through? So the general information questions will be based on what we have provided you. Yes, it will also be multiple choice. So you have the student numbers. You've got the PDF that was uploaded to Eve. You can email them. You can even one of the practicals. Maybe it's 43 different. Well, it's more than 40 groups. Well, you can always use the matching group practical to establish a connection between them. Just at the student number, because you have to use your student number as your nickname, and they will see the message there if you haven't made contact with them yet. So you can email them with a student number at student.uj.ac.za. You can use the matching group practical channel if you want to establish just a handshake, and then say move over to another Discord or to WhatsApp or whatever you want to use to communicate after that. Right. Okay, so it seems there's not a lot of questions still for the tutorial itself, so I'm going to stop the recording here. I'll still be online if you have more questions. But I'm willing to give you one question or one instruction. The abstract-based class example. Assuming none of you are actually looking at what's on the screen. That's sad. Was willing to open up the memo. It's right there. Yeah, there it is. There's the memo for the semester test. So sad. Didn't ask me to open it, I would have opened it.
They're not paying enough attention.
I guess. Shall we open it? After I've done this abstract example. You thought I would open it by mistake. Let's see. Okay, so let's first look at this abstract example, and then we'll maybe I'll open it. You never know. Because I'm not recording anymore. Okay, but let's first look at this. So you want to see what happens with a class if you have a must override. Are you still here though? Let's first check if you're still here. Yes. Okay. So let's just do a base class. I'm just going to call it base, just for the sake of being speedy. We can have an instance variable. Let's just add one instance variable in here. You've got private, let's just say name as string, and then let's create a must override function. So I just want to get that question first. Where's your question? Okay, can an overridable must override method be private? Okay, so let's first look at the must override. So we go public must override right function do something, and then have a return, let's just say return a string. And what do you notice? So the first thing you notice, because I have the must override, the base class is now giving an issue. It says base must be declared, must inherit because it contains methods declared must override. Alright, so let's go and make this a must inherit. Now, your second question is, can we make this private? What do you see? Another error. Private and must override cannot be combined. So the problem here is must override means that it must be inherited. Private means that only this class has access to this function. Protected, on the other hand, because protected stays in the family, should be allowed, and it does. Now, let's not make this a must override. Let's make this overrideable. Just make this public again first before we do this. Override. There we go. Okay. Now, second issue. End function. This is now an overrideable function, which means it can have calculations or computational code inside. Let's try and make it private. It gives me an error. Once again, private and overrideable cannot be combined because private means only this class. Protected is allowed because keep in mind that protected means that everybody that's in the family that inherits from this class has access to it as well. So that's why it allows it. But if I can add just one thing, if you're ever unsure about things like that, let's say you want to know if a string would work in a certain scenario, go and test it out. The best way for you to learn what the code can and cannot do is by playing around with the code and testing it out, doing the different things, playing around with the functions and capabilities that are there. I mean, if you make this a private, overrideable, it will tell you, you cannot do that. It's an issue. Alright. So it's a very easy way just to get to see what's capable and what's not capable. It's how you learn. It's how you learn new things. Alright. So that's it for tonight. Thank you. Oh, well, we've got another question. So, Benny, done with this, may you please explain what they mean when they say, what does it calculate in terms of... Oh, okay. So, you remember I removed what I did. Remember we had that those final calculations that said x plus y plus x plus y plus x plus y plus 4, that one example we had. So what it means is we want a formula. So in terms of x, y, and z, we want a formula where you'll see that the formula will say 3x plus y plus 4, which in our tutorial was c, and then the 3 can just be c minus 1 times x plus y plus c. But the what it means is it wants this formula. It wants the formula for x, y, and z, or a, b, and c, or x, y, and c in this case. So it just wants that formula of what the function actually does. So if you came a bit late to the tutorial, maybe just have a look at the first. I think it was in the first 15 minutes of the tutorial. Actually, the first hour, I needed that, or first half an hour, I needed that. Um, it's the result is what we want is this. We want that answer. And if you look at the past paper that was uploaded, the past paper had the multiple choice. So that gives you the expected answers where we want that as the answer. We want to know what that formula is. But in Thursday's semester test, you're not going to have any of these. It's going to be, you have to calculate it. And Mr. Cottrell uploaded 2017, 2018, and 2019's past papers. All right. Any other questions? Any final questions before we end? We're actually on time tonight, for once. I think they're all just waiting for me to open this. Question is typed above. I missed that question. Should we only use protected in practicals if we told to? Because if protected is used, then we don't have to use property methods. You still have to use property methods, but what are you referring to here? Property methods is how you change or initially change the value of your instance variable. So you need an instance variable get and set for each property method. So protected means that if you inherit from a class, you've got access to the functions in that class, whereas shared is a shared value. It's not so protected has access to it. Share, everybody has access to it, but the value is basically contained inside that one class. I think that's a horrible explanation, though. Mr. Cottrell, do you have a different way of explaining shared, maybe?
Shared is something that belongs to the class, not the object. So unlike a function or a subroutine or instance variable that belongs to an object, shared belongs to the class. Whatever classes are created, whatever objects are created from the class can see the shared variable, but it belongs outside the scope of an object. It what else to say it? I keep thinking of it as static from other languages. Shared. It's a class level attribute. That's only way to explain it.
Yeah, I think practically it's easier to show you what shared is and explain shared, but basically the value changes as you request access to the value, but an object itself only contains the new instance of that shared value, so it keeps track of that value. I think in yesterday's class, that was only after the class, where I showed an example of how shared can be used, because it keeps track of something for you, and like Mr. Cottrell says, it's in the class itself. It's not really the object.
It can be used for more than just keeping track. It can be using for access to functions that you don't have to create objects for, like you guys use maths.round or maths.power. Those are things that you can use without creating objects, but you can access a method. Just be careful on your scrolling, Mr. Van Westhuizen. You're giving them a bit too much hope there.
But I'm pretty sure they know it's a trick.
Yeah, I know.
I wouldn't say
wouldn't
apply to. I wouldn't say apply to. Look, the example we used when we did the practical or when we did the lecture slide is a number, and then every time you created an object, you would call the shared. You would basically increase the shared value by one. So it's a way of you establishing a. I'll also get back to the static. It's a way of having a constant value. You always have a constant to keep track of. But tomorrow you'll see better instructions in any case.
Tomorrow we're going to release a full set of instructions. Full set of instructions so you guys, so you don't have a repeat of maths. I was wondering what you're doing with the memo. Shared is the ability to create a function that exists outside an object as well.
We can maybe
create functions that. Sorry, Mr. Minister.
No, I just want to say we can maybe do a tutorial on, or a tutorial next week that includes shared, so we can show you practically how it works.
Yeah, it's difficult to. It's like a primary key almost. I kind of think of it as well as in a separate level. It's almost could potentially be like a way of keeping track of a primary key automatically.
Well, it's code-wise, it's how it's used, but they haven't done primary keys yet. That's only next year.
Yeah, when I get you again.
No, I'm not sending this to anyone. I'll try it. Maybe I'll get a better response in class tomorrow. I'll try it tomorrow again. So don't give it away then. Just make sure one of you asks to open up the memo then we can do it in class to the others.
But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're enjoying first day of spring. A lovely, lovely first day of spring. I know it's called sarcasm, people. Unfortunately, I don't. My tone of voice doesn't differentiate between sarcasm and normal. We will release additional instructions tomorrow to avoid any chance of any thing going wrong, like your maths that you have to Does everyone have to rewrite the maths? By the way, I didn't get the class this morning. Didn't tell me if everyone's rewriting or just only a few. Ooh, damn. Never mind. Tomorrow at 3.
But that interferes, so we're not going to have anyone in. Wait, so are you rewriting tomorrow?
At 3, yeah. That's what it looks like.
So we're not going to have anyone in class tomorrow?
Wait, who has to rewrite? Is it specific students or specific sections have to rewrite? Only extended degree students. That's majority of you guys.
Yeah, I think that's about 70% of the class.
Yeah. Extended for the win. Back in the day, we were the minority of the class. Or the lectures, yeah, okay, we'll still have to have a lecture, but it'll be more a recording for them to watch later, I guess.
I think I'm going to leave the error handling, the exception handling for next week then.
Yeah, if no one's going to attend. We can do enumeration.
That's always a fun one. Yes, hello? Is someone else?
And easy with extended, but we got to write 2 papers. Yeah, no, extended's only easy for the first 2 years, and it gets hard. But yeah, I think that's when we're going to release a detailed set of instructions to avoid any additional stress to you guys for the semester test for us. So you guys don't have to stress about not knowing something because of maths and their stupidity. The HOD is not happy either. Don't worry, you've informed her.
And your submission for your semester says it's the same as practical. It's exactly the same. So you've got experience with it.
You do maths up until your second academic year. So if you extend it, you do maths until your third year. If you mainstream, you do maths for the first 2 years. Yes.
It depends on what's.
And if you
It depends on which
Depends on your
degree you
major.
do.
And also depends if you fail a maths module. And yes, I speak from experience.
So I know there's some well, when I did my degree back in the day, the IT02 students in their second year had a choice of not maths but something else.
It's raining again by me.
I'm still waiting for it to start here. I thought that was the case. There's one degree where you'll see that you'll still have maths in both years because you'll have your algebra in the first year, and then in the second year you'll have a choice between algebra, linear algebra, and discrete mathematics.
I see you got a question focused on me. Why do accountants do informatics 100? They do it it's more for decision making and critical thinking. But the chart and account, it's only the chart and accountant students specifically that do it. They're doing it because their accreditation requires it as well now from 2025. So from 2025, all chart and accountants will need to know how to program.
They're probably afraid because AI is going to take their jobs away from them.
AI will probably take away jobs from most accountants. CAs are the only ones that might be excluded because they have to check the AI's calculation. So what we learned in informatics 1A till now, where can we what you've learned from informatics 1A until now, Hal, you can make an AI project if you want. I used everything you guys have learned in my PhD to implement NPC. So trust me, what you've learned so far is enough.
Did I still have one of my past projects?
I don't know if even my Unity will run right now.
Mine's still outdated, so I can't run my project.
Yeah.
I don't have the language installed. I don't have the hardware for that.
Yeah, once you've learned polymorphism, you can really start expanding on your ability to develop systems. Polymorphism and inheritance really gives you Is that the one with the actual flashing lights?
What do you mean?
There's one we made, the one with flashing lights.
I can't remember. This is the one I presented for my AI project.
Do matric students do OOP? I don't think so.
Well, they do Delphi, so there's some aspects of it.
So please tell me we won't ever need
But C++ is fun. Wait, do I still have this code running? Yeah. So this you'll probably recognize it's just text boxes, buttons, and a custom display. You'll recognize classes. Just have classes with a bunch of instructions. You've got the actual program itself, so that just starts the AI. And then you've got what the hell?
That's not me.
Oh,
I think I don't know if that question's focused on me or focused at you.
Which one?
C sharp's on the screen. The second last question now. Why PhD? And not up for making money.
Because I like torturing myself.
C++ and Python are not similar.
C++ is a lot better than Python. I mean, Python is a lot better than C++, in my opinion. What the hell is going on here?
I don't know. C++ is only for first year comp sci, then you switch over to Java. But the main thing is it's not about the language, it's about the principles. So, and if you want to do game development, C++ is the quintessential game development language. Most AAA titles have C++ still sometimes. PhD is an academic approach in IT. If you're an academic in IT, you have to eventually do a PhD. That's why we both. Well, mine's finished, and Mr. van der Westhuizen's in his PhD.
I can show you how far I am with my PhD.
Burn something else down.
I have an empty page.
Wait, I know what I can show them.
You can actually show your AI to them. If you guys want to see something, if you actually want to see something interesting that was developed for a PhD.
I just need to find the video. I can't run the code right now because I haven't downloaded it.
It's just that all of my code requires hardware, so I can't really demo it.
Is source code seen on the website actual code of it? That's the HTML markup.
There's actually I can give you an example of that. So for instance,
stop sharing so I can do the video.
Just want to show them something. So you have, it's not source code, but it's the markup languages. You'll see that some of them have functions linked in the background. Now those functions will link into the web service you're running that will sit on the server. So you'll have your instructions in the front end, and then you'll have links into other things that you'll mainly have backend access to. But this is just your display itself. If you want to see something interesting, I shouldn't actually be showing this to you. Out of interest's sake, how many of you think your password is safe?
Don't demo on E.
This works anywhere. How many of you think this is a safe password? Okay. Can you retrieve that password? As it is right there, can you see what it is? Okay, let me just
judging by your tone.
Let me just open up. Why does it keep doing that? Okay. No, I didn't do it wrong.
Or did you do forensics?
No, I did not. This was me just fooling around that discovered this.
Oh, it's a post command. Of course, it's going to be there.
Just want to find the element itself. Right. You see password is of type password. So for those that think if you auto save your password on your device, the easiest way to get that is changing that.
I did not know that either.
Yeah, it's some interesting things you learn. And that is just from what I learned in second year. So I just played around with a website, and then I recognized the tabs, and I modified the tabs, and oh, it works.
Don't save your password. Use like LastPass or password vault. But please at least generate new passwords. Just stop sharing. I can.
Actually, I hope it displays properly. It's not displaying.
No, it's just going through stupid. Is it coming up? Skip. There you go. That's running. So basically, I wrote the AI that controls the dog. It's on its own mission to find food. Now, oddly enough, if you look at the bottom, it's got this A star, dexterous, best first search. Those are all objects and classes it's swapping between.
This actually doesn't do the algorithms or the actual research behind it justice.
No, it doesn't. But it just looks awesome because it's a procedurally generated environment.
So everything you see is generated by code.
That's like Minecraft, just prettier.
All you need now is add ray tracing.
Footsuck. 6 months.
Six months of coding.
6 months of coding. Only sad part is I didn't do the model for the dog. The dog I bought. The model for the dog is done by a development company. I just made it move around.
Oh, question.
From Tanga. How far back is your question? Are you guys able to create AI bots can automate purchasing items online by bypassing the catchphrase prompt?
Well, it's a learning exercise. So it's machine. Well, you'll have computer vision with machine learning, and they basically learn the different fonts. But the problem with that is the various aspects that are needed. It just depends on what they use. Because I used to use one for, I'm not going to call the anime side, but it had a are you a person or not also type of capturing system, but they use a repetition in their objects, and you just make the AI learn the object and the description of the object, and then it will automatically select that for you. So it's the same thing, but the problem is you need to learn it how to handle it. So with the capture prompt, you have to teach it how to work with. You'll have to teach it natural language processing. If you want it to understand, you need to find a dog and then select all the dogs. So it needs to know what a dog is, how to describe a dog, how to identify a dog, even with text. If it can identify the text, if it can recognize the individual characters, then you can have it do that for you. It sounds a lot easier than what it is, but it's a lot of pattern matching and learning that it has to go through, especially with the capture things, because of the variations of fonts and backgrounds and images that they use. So their background is specifically designed and used to confuse any application that tries to detect a pattern on the screen itself.
But it depends on the capture prompt, depends on that.
Well, Discord is for free.
Hmm.
There's a lot of applications. There's Discord, there's Mongol, there's TeamSpeak, but Discord is for free. It's probably why it's one of the more popular ones. Not for business, but for even I actually see businesses are using Discord as well now.
A lot of manga translators use Discord. Which language should I use? Don't focus on language. Focus on understanding how to program. Language you can worry about later.
Ooh, never ask that question to the HOD.
I heard AI is mainly if statements. Is it true? Actually, she won't kill you if you actually ask that. I've seen some of the AI projects. AI is the ability for the computer to determine its own decisions. So
I think I have the AI textbook here. I can show them one of the algorithms and have them decide for themselves.
It is a lot of if statements, but it's the logic behind the if statements that's important.
But I have a better one. In fact, where's my textbook archive? Let me share my screen so you guys can see.
Yes, the conversation's gone pear-shaped.
Yeah, well, this machine. Okay, docs, textbooks. Add artificial intelligence textbook center.
That's a deep learning one.
It has an algorithm that I've been looking at. Let me just see. I'm looking for there. That's the one. 14.
Zoom in a bit.
So it has an algorithm here. I just want to find the algorithm quickly.
What algorithm am I looking for? You too. For those writing the maths test, good luck. Hopefully maths department doesn't screw up again.
No comment. Trying to find they had a very nice example of a simple AI. I didn't see that question. What was the question?
No, your statement, simple AI.
Yeah, well, you understand what I mean with simple AI. Let me rather go back to Russell Nordic. There it is.
That's generic fitness.
Yeah, there's a generic algorithm for you.
That's proper algorithm code or pseudocode.
Yeah. I think that is there's the chessboard.
What a PlayStation game's coded in, that actually can vary from Unity to Unreal to C++. Depends on the and also there are custom engines for PlayStation, so it depends on what they are developing. Actually, Google that while you do that.
Well, the top languages for consoles are C++. Look, for most of you that are actually interested in game development, I suggest you work more on your maths then, because most game developers actually have doctorates in mathematics.
Doctorates in AI as well.
Yes.
If you want to get to a big AAA development house, you need a PhD in AI or graphics. Oh, GDC's, they got a PlayStation. No, that doesn't help. Rockstar Engine, that's they're the one, Horizon Zero Dawn, isn't it?
Rockstar, that's no, Rockstar is GTA.
No, Horizon Zero Dawn was
No, that's not CryEngine, that's
Red Redemption.
yeah, that's Rockstar.
Oh. Look, some development houses have their own game engines.
Well, consider the Cryotech engine that Crysis uses.
Yeah, but for instances, Unity now supports PlayStation games, so you can develop in Unity and export it to a PlayStation.
And you can do C# and Unity.
I'm looking at a thing now that Unity also supports PlayStation. Oh wait, Fee was developed in Unity. That remember. That is one of the best indie game developers in a while. I think it's called Best Unity Games. No.
If you have any idea how much AI is actually in those F1 development racing, it's insane.
They cheat.
It's insane how much AI is in those cars. If you ever see how they run,
Here is a game you can look at.
Yeah, the engineering is beautiful, but if you look at how they actually do their wind tunnel setups, most things are machine based. I saw a wind tunnel for Ferrari one day.
No, but a lot of I know Fonda. Is it Fonda?
They've got an in-house track for their cars. They're not going to show the camera setup. Yeah, they've got an in-house treadmill for their cars. There's an F1 treadmill in the Ferrari lab, and they have a camera. Yeah, they've got. Yeah, so there's one of the results. Where they actually have an AI that determines your aerodynamics and then makes design recommendations based on your friction on the front.
Google the FE video game. That was, if I remember correctly, an indie developed game that was developed in Unity and then exported to PlayStation.
How many people can say they can comfortably Google anything and the URL nothing.u will show up?
Not many. Just go for the first YouTube.
Oh, YouTube.
Second YouTube. There, second one. That game, the amount of AI in that game is ridiculous. Because you learn how to interact with the environment, and based on the sound your character makes, different things will happen. So you fly through and then interact with plants and animals by making different sounds, and you have to learn what sound to make for what to happen.
Oh, but if you want something interesting, just Google.
No, but this is an example of a Unity game developed and then exported to PlayStation.
No, but never mind that. There's a. I'll give you. If you really want to start with AI,
Froza is the game, AI, the racing game I was thinking about.
there's
that AI is ridiculous.
So Unity has guided code tutorials that will teach you how to code AI systems in Unity.
No, but Unity Pro has been made available free for people to use their tutorials.
Oh, so when we doing tutorials?
Yeah, the Unity Pro has like built-in tutorials you can access for free.
Oh,
they made it available COVID issue.
Well, you have enough people to do it. They just need to openly expose their systems.
You know how many things have been developed in Africa, or in South Africa? The first heart transplant was in Cape Town. Creepy Crawly was developed in South Africa. PayPal, version of it was South African.
Well, it's Elon Musk that made PayPal, if I'm not mistaken.
But Frozer, the AI in Frozer is also quite insane. It uploads gameplay from different people, but he ditched us, yeah.
Well, to be honest, if you have that much money and you can do a international multi-billion-dollar company, would you also not ditch South Africa? Unfortunately, there's more money internationally than there is in South Africa for a company.
Yeah, and he gets stoned all the time.
I don't think it's that we don't support him. We don't have the infrastructure to support. Look, if Tesla was in South Africa, we don't have the infrastructure to support something like Tesla in South Africa.
Imagine Tesla and Eskom. Mm.
They'll be best friends.
Elon Musk would be load shedded every bloody day. Wouldn't he get much done? Yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah, but you also have to keep in mind with SpaceX, there's only certain points on the surface of the Earth that you can actually exit the Earth's atmosphere safely.
Okay, I've got to go. I've got other things to attend to. Ladies and gentlemen, go and study for your semester tests. We'll have more discussions like this later on, don't worry.
We used to do that every Friday on practicals.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tomorrow's class will be something small. We'll probably do enumerations or something. Other than that, yeah, enjoy the rest of the evening. Please make sure you study. It's an easy test if you study, but only if you study.
Thank you for letting us know that the maths test is tomorrow. It does help us plan ahead.
Yeah, that means I'm doing. I want to do the try catch when everybody's there.
Yeah. And when everyone's actually paying it, is more focused on the work and not stressing about maths.
Yeah. Okay, but gents, I think that's been long enough. Enjoy the evening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
I'll do the downloading and uploading.
I actually want to send you an OBS version and see if it's not smaller.
Okay. Send it through Discord or just send it on.
I'll have to do it through WhatsApp. Discord only allows 100 megs.
Then just drop Dropbox.
Okay.
What was the last? I've got to do some other work as well. I wonder if my Unity still works. Let's test.
I like the group that comes to the session.
Yeah, oddly enough, a lot of them are from. Oh, my AI engine still works. Check.
Nice.
Next time we'd have a class, I can show them.
Yeah, something interesting for them to
Start!
It's just sad because it doesn't actually show. If there was only a way to show how many calculations are actually taking place during all of this.
The best is that line, dude. No, I can show you them something.
If you can actually, you could potentially virtualize the implementation of your code to represent your symbiosis.
I know, but there's a navigation mesh on top of it. That's what it's calculating through to get to its points.
And they'll only start understanding that towards the end of their third year.
So I can show them that.
Well, it's something interesting for the tutorial series that actually come to the tutorials.
There's the perception of the AI, navigation, and then this kills my machine, or used to kill my machine. to render that.
Did you test it on the new laptop?
I'm running it on the new laptop. It's smooth as hell. Okay, I got church in like 5 minutes. I must go.
Make it, yeah. Check it tomorrow, but I'll get something. I'll work enumerations and try catch into next week because it fills a lecture. I'll find something for tomorrow.
Because I feel bad for the students that have to redo the maths, and then it's enough. It's enough stress on them.
Yeah, so either do maybe tuts and then catch up in one of the tuts.
Yeah, but dude, that's what Prof was so Prof was so upset with, not upset with, so irritated with my PhD is she knew how much work I'd done. But if you read my PhD, it doesn't reflect the amount of code and design that goes into it, even in the document.
But that's why I tell you that what you see doesn't justify what you actually did.
But that's the thing is, this actually does justify it.
Well, I know.
NPC shouldn't. It meets the demand perfectly because you shouldn't see the complexity. It should look like a dog walking around.
That is fair.
And that's what it does. If it is too complex, it'll break the uncanny valley, and then it'll be screwed.
That's actually true.
So if it is a human model, then I'll be screwed. But I must bounce. I'll come back on later if we need to do that stuff for